I think that everybody wants to see a bunch of tall, very masculine style women chase a ball around for pennies on the dollars. All this and more on a Self-Evident Podcast. You know, I always tell myself I'm not going to go there, and then I go there.
I'm glad you did. Because now it makes sense why we're doing all this.
Right. This is why we're talking about this, because that is so important to everybody.
That's right.
Welcome, guys, to the Self-Evident Podcast. You may hear some noise in the background. That's because Massey is live on location in Orlando?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's on location, but we're going to pretend it is. Now, so he's...
I had a great idea to use these headphones. The problem is they don't connect to my back. I have the wrong connection, fellas. I screwed up, okay?
Oh, no. Bummer.
So I would have had a quiet, but I didn't. So I apologize.
But we're going to make it through.
Yeah, we're going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
Fine. He may make some people mad who are walking past, but that is what it is. You'll
I
survive.
think that's the way it should be.
I think so too. So I'm going to say the most inflammatory stuff possible to get people mad at you, since they can probably hear me as well.
I would do that. But if you've not gone to theselfevidenttruth.com, for all you listeners, you got to do it. So head on over. You guys can help us out. We got some cool things going on, especially tours starting in January again. I'm kind of homebound here in December, but starting in January, we're going right to North Carolina and all the other crap. So we're everywhere. We're kind of covering some territory, if you will.
Territory. So yeah, go to theselfevidenttruth.com, get yourself some merch, check out the resources, become a donor. Don't forget, we do have the year-end donation drive going. It helps us for the year that we're heading into. So by all means, please check that out. Pray about, is it something you would like to give to or donate to?
Yes.
So we're going to get into this.
So, I mean, I was going to say Clark Kent saved the day. You know, Kent State. Yeah.
Caitlin Clark saves the day. Clark Kent, Superman
saves
Superman.
White privilege, baby. MVP.
Hey, she saved the world, man. She saved the world.
But then denies even doing. She saved the league for sure.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that.
Huh?
We won't talk about that, and right. We'll deny that.
What we have to do is make sure everybody understands. This is so crazy that the world understands that it's not us, but it's not even saying that. It's, I'm going to demean myself in order for you to advance. That's
right.
The ultimate form of servitude, bro. It's the ultimate form. Right. That's what socialism does. It seeks to keep everybody on an equal playing field. But notice the only ones that talk about sacrifice are the ones on top. You know what I mean? They teach everyone else to sacrifice while they're not. You know what I mean? So,
you all should be driving electric cars and stop flying and be careful of your carbon footprint while we fly our private jets over to meet for weeks on end about how you all should stop doing that stuff. It's rich, the hypocrisy.
Right.
And this whole situation, I'm not a big basketball fan. I'm going to put it right out there.
Mike, you're not a sports person really, except for hockey.
Well, growing up, I was, and then all of a sudden I was like, sports are a waste of my time.
I just talked to a young kid the other day at the wedding.
Yeah.
I asked him, I said, are you into sports? He goes, it's the stupidest thing ever. People tackle each other over a ball. We cheer when someone puts a ball in a hole. I was like, dang, he's kind of oversimplifying it, but others find it as a skill or, the thrill of getting a ball in the hole,
Right.
just anyway.
I appreciate athletic ability. I definitely do. I think, in college, I liked hockey. I liked college football. I was okay about pro football. Baseball, basketball, that kind of stuff I didn't really care about. But the older I got, the more it was like, I don't want to be one of those guys that has to wear his favorite player's jersey every single day and has to follow ESPN for all the latest sports stats and live or die by your weekend. And it's not for me. No offense to the people who are like that, but I got more important things to do with my life. So
Right.
No offense.
Well, but I think that's what makes this story so crazy. Is Caitlin Clark coming out basically saying, I've definitely earned everything I've gotten, but privilege plays a part. So in other words, you didn't earn everything you got, and you blame something else in order for you to have access to this privilege, right?
Right.
So here's where it becomes interesting. There are other white players in the league who have done extremely well, just not as popular as Caitlin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Women who have done extremely well, great statistics, great players, right? But the league wasn't churning money. They were bleeding, and the NBA was covering a lot of that nut. They couldn't get a deal to save their lives, really, when it comes to media deals. And so Caitlin comes in with all the star power, right? She resurrects the league. Now, this is where you and I really got to riff off, but I know you got some things, but I just want to put us in the premise of this woman speaks out on this Time magazine thing, which is stupid. But I want Mike to take it away because both him and I were talking about this, and he's got a really good perspective on what we're talking about today.
So, Caitlin Clark was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. Now, my question is, what journalist at Time Magazine actually cares about basketball? Typically,
and why
journalists.
Do we care what Time says?
Right. I don't care about what Time Magazine says about sports or basketball. I don't. But they decided to throw their hat in the mix, and of course, it went social justice-y. She's allowed her opinion. Let's get that straight first. And
of course.
I put this right in the notes. Massey and I both agree, she's allowed her opinion. And I watched Megyn Kelly's blistering retort, and it was kind of I get what you're saying, but I think you're getting a little hot under the collar about something that somebody said. And one thing I was saying to Massey was, think about where Caitlin Clark comes from. She grew up in the women's basketball environment, right? She grew up high school basketball. She grew up in college, which what kind of education are people getting in college these days? And then she goes to pro NBA. I would be more surprised for her to not state this position. Let's be frank, right? She is a part of this whole kind of mindset or culture. So she's just speaking what she's been brought up in. So she can say whatever she wants and what she deems fit. That's between her and herself.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we do have the right to disagree with the narrative that's being pushed on this whole thing. And so what did she exactly say? She said to Time Magazine, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but so I want to say that I've earned everything, but as a white person, there is privilege. In other words, you want to say that you've earned it all, but you can't because you're white. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try and change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Now, Fox News reports that she wasn't the only one bringing up race. Now, if you've watched Caitlin Clark at all in this whole saga of her entering into the league, there's been issues from the get-go. Aja Wilson, MVP, said Clark being white was a huge thing when it came to Clark's popularity, aka she's popular because she's white.
Right.
Angel Reese said that there had been a lot of racism from Iowa and Indiana Fever fans. Connecticut Sun player DeJohnny Carrington, who poked Clark in the eye during Connecticut playoff win over the Fever, previously criticized Clark for not doing more to call out racism. Notice, race is right out the gate, Mass. Like that, they jumped on that thing.
Right.
So I find all of this really interesting. Here's where I'm going to go with this. So I'll post this up. I read an opinion piece about this by Nancy Armour. She was writing for USA Today, and she defended Caitlin Clark, and she reports that Clark used her love of Maya Moore as evidence of respect for black players that came up and the greatness of black players in the league and that kind of thing. Not denying. But Moore says, for those unaware, Moore was transcendent when she was running roughshod over the WNBA, leading the Minnesota Lynx to 4 titles in 7 years and winning MVP honors in both the regular season and WNBA finals. Add in her Olympic gold medals and her titles and Player of the Year honors at UConn, and she's quite possibly the best there's ever been. Moore continues, but Moore's impact went beyond the court as a cornerstone of the WNBA's social justice efforts. There it is. She and the Lynx were among the first athletes to protest the racist policing of black and brown people, and she retired early to work on reversing the wrongful conviction of the man who is now her husband. And Armour continues, few athletes, especially at a young age, can be as thoughtful or as direct as LeBron James and the U.S. women's national soccer team in calling out hate and the marginalization of minorities. In other words, you're not playing sports, you're supposed to be an activist. And you notice these other players, as well as these journalists, they're not interested in the sport. You can accuse me of not being interested in the sport. That's fine. But I'm not standing here telling Caitlin Clark, you better have this philosophy. Now, I can disagree with your philosophy, but I'm not standing out here saying she better stand up for Trump supporters and conservative-minded people. It's like, but here it is, like, no, you have a social justice job to do. If you're
right. I think that's the problem with sports in general. And this is a Hispanic talking, I better throw the caveat out there.
You're brown, so you can say what you want.
But it's never enough. You know what I mean? Dude, if every black player like Moore was praised and exalted and Caitlin Clark came in, somehow there would be something coming against Caitlin in some weird way, shape, or form. LeBron thinks racism still exists in the NBA. A lot of these black players, seriously. I know.
I just laugh because it's like, here we go.
It's racist. It's like, okay, hatred exists in every kind, but is that the hill you're going to be known to die on? To correct something that has existed since the beginning of millennia, since the beginning of time, that like you can't stop the sin of man except through Jesus Christ. So you're trying to use natural means in order to get something done, which will never stop, right? But you don't see anybody being advocated to stop suicide, but yet, it's got to be racism. It's the one thing in sports that's the linchpin.
Yes.
These rich players, and people say WNBA players aren't rich, they're not getting paid as much as men, because their sports sucked for so many years. That girl may come in, no, seriously.
You're right.
Come in more and dominated the league. That should tell you something. That one player dominated a league like that?
Dude.
That should say something.
It blows me away because, like, Armour brought up Maya Moore, right? And use like best player that's ever hit the game. It's like, okay, but let's talk about Clark for a second, because everybody's saying, oh, it's just because she's white, that's why she's so popular. Just can we go through a little bit, just some of the records she's broken, first in her pro career, right? So she holds the WNBA record for most assists in a game with 19, also holds the record for most assists by a rookie with 247. So it's not just one game she did well. She's doing well throughout her season. She's killing it. Turnovers, she's got the record for the most in debut game with 10, also the most for a rookie in a season with 164. Triple doubles, first rookie to record a triple double. Points, rebounds, assists, first WNBA rookie to record 400 points, 100 rebounds, and 150 assists in a season. Fastest to 400 points and 200 assists in 26 games. But wait, there's more. Let's go to her NCAA record, the record she broke, which that's what really sparked people to latch onto her. She broke Pete Maravich's all-time NCAA D1 point record.
There it is. Gender.
Exactly. Of everybody, she broke the points record. Now, this next record, I really believe is the one that absolutely catapulted her a whole nother level. When she passed Steph Curry for most three-pointers in a single season in D1 basketball history. I really believe because his name was attached to that. And Massey, I saw your own boys talking about that. Your own sons were talking about her when she was in college and this whole Steph Curry record. That's a big name that everybody tends to know, even if you're not big on sports. And you're like, wait a second, this girl is breaking this?
She's on the verge of something, yeah. And she became an overnight 4-year sensation. You know what I mean? Maybe
right?
She became an overnight sensation. She wasn't even looking for the adulation. And here's what's even crazier. It was, again, it's unique. Okay, let's just shoot straight. This isn't racist. A white player doing it. Versus all of the emphasis in the NBA is black players, black league, racism, Black Lives Matter. White girl comes over and says, I'm going to break that record, and I'm going to break that record. And Pete Maravich obviously wasn't black, but, just like the whole thing. And I think, too, what makes Caitlin unique, kind of a unicorn, is this is the first time she's actually speaking out about gender issues, kind of the LGBTQ kindness. She kind of taps into a little bit. She calls it just, what's happening. But she stayed out of all that stuff and just tried to keep it about basketball. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's what makes it so important, so real.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. Like, I think she spoke her point, but then at the same time, she's trying to kind of keep it in the basketball realm. And of course, everybody on both sides is blowing this up of like, it's racism, it's not racism. And I want to go the line that you were talking in a second, because I don't think conservatives will have the guts to kind of go this line a little bit. And in the notes, I don't remember where I put it, but I compared, she reminds me of like Tiger Woods with golf. Now I know Megyn Kelly brought this up, but I want to take this a little different angle. Tiger Woods stepped into a game of golf that people weren't watching outside of 65 plus, right? And you had the Arnold Palmers and the Jack Nicklauses and the Greg Normans and blah, blah, blah. And then you have this young, powerful, exciting guy who's black, right? And there was, this will sound shallow, but ride this out with me. There's some novelty to the fact when you see somebody that isn't like everybody else and they're absolutely dominating the game. It's not he's getting all the attention because he's black. He's different, and man, he's killing it. I mean, Eminem with rap, and I'm not saying Eminem wouldn't have been as successful as he was if he had been black. I'm not saying that Tiger Woods wouldn't have been as successful as he was if he were white. Same with Caitlin Clark if she were black. But there's a novelty factor that draws people's attention, like, oh, what's going on here? This is different, and especially in golf, not many blacks succeed, right? Because it's not a game that blacks are necessarily attracted to overall. If you consider blacks are 13% of the US population, yet they dominate basketball, they dominate football, right? So people are used to seeing that. And then all of a sudden you get this white girl that comes in. It's not racism, it's just novelty to me. People go, wait a second, man, you don't tend to see white girls killing it in sports. And this white girl is absolutely killing it in basketball, I should say.
It proves a lot of work ethic. It proves a lot of work ethic on her part to go after these things and to bust her butt. Like you said, it's nothing now. I mean, LeBron James, whether you love him or hate him, kind of those once in a lifetime, once in a generation kind of player. Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas. Dude, John Stockton was awesome in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like, these players were incredible. But you see this guy who comes out of nowhere who's just an anomaly, right? A unicorn, if you will. It's just like, where did this guy come from? What the heck? Like, you look at Steph Curry, you don't see the biggest guy, but you see the guy who can shoot a three from literally, he can bomb it from Texas to Golden State and make it.
Right.
So it's an anomaly, and people are like, whoa, that's That's a little unique.
And to ride the Caitlin Clark train, he's known for 3-pointers. He's known for draining it. And then she comes and breaks his record. Like, there's some interest in that type of lady, especially, coming out of left field.
I kind of want to go to the Time article real fast because I want to read.
Yeah, go for
it. That really kind of tickled me, not the right way. One of the frustrating things is that our editor of the article puts baby in a corner. So there's like a second or third paragraph, and she's like, obviously Kate had a lot of help, and she lists all these other players like Boston and all that stuff. And it's like, they wouldn't do that with LeBron James. They wouldn't do that with Jordan. I mean, we named Scotty and all these other guys with Jordan, but like when we say Jordan, we think greatness. We never think any other players with him. We just think Jordan was the guy who helped with the other players. But when it comes to Caitlin, in this article, they try to right away and pin her with, she had a lot of help. She had this and that. It's a freaking team sport. She shouldn't have all the attention on her. She's just a dominant player, right? But the other spin on this, and this is where it gets really, really, for you and I, stupid. A scholar of African American history at the American University, her name is Teresa Runstedler, said, all of this is really speaking to something much larger than Caitlin Clark. It's speaking to our unresolved issues about race, gender, sexuality in American society, and particularly fraught moment in our political landscape. What the heck does that have to do with basketball and her being the most valuable player of the year? Does that have anything to do with her playing basketball?
Because who she sleeps with matters.
But it's like
somehow it matters.
Caitlin Clark said, I've told people that I'm the most controversial. I feel like I'm the most controversial person out there. She said, but it's really the headlines that surround me. Jordan was saying nothing. She's given praise to all of her teammates constantly. She's praised her coaches. She's praised people who have gotten her there and helped her get there. I'm telling you, it's not enough because there has to be someone ascending above a white person every freaking time. And that's why this cultural Marxism bullcrap that we're living with, it's up to us to really just knock it down. That's why the media is losing. They just named Trump. Didn't he get
I noticed that.
Person of the year,
yeah.
And it's like, why? They didn't do it before. What's going on? You know what I mean?
I've really wondered that. Like, why all of a sudden is he a darling? They name him Person of the Year. Jill and Joe Biden can't seem to stop smiling around the guy. Now, I think that's because they hate Kamala with a passion. So I think that's part of that. But I've kind of wondered, like, are we going to get the same vitriol, anger, and hatred that we got last time around with Trump? Or is something changing? But I think you're absolutely right with Caitlin Clark. Like, it's the headlines that surround her that are so crazy about all of this. And you're seeing this social war happening. And it's like, all y'all are making this about race. It's all you guys that are bringing up race every single time. If you guys wouldn't bring it up, it wouldn't really be the conversation topic, and she could just play ball. And I'm with you of like, she kind of went along with this whole, it's not just me and these women built this sport and all of that. And my question to that at the bottom of page 3, Mass, I said, I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to read it, okay? She gave in to what all the people around her wanted her to do, and I think because it paid off in the sense of, like, that's what she's been taught, that's where her head is at, that's what she believes, so of course she's going to say it. She believes this is truth. Unfortunately, the other players who see her as a white outsider to the league and a lightning rod of racism will not take what she said and give her their grace. They're not going to turn around and be like, okay, we like her now. They won't suddenly decide that she's a good person and has been mistreated. No. They'll expect, they demand more from her. This isn't enough to just acknowledge her privilege. Now, people on both sides will demand she walk the walk. What will she do to prove that she actually believes she has white privilege and help the exposure of her black counterparts? How much is enough?
That's what
when
I'm
will
saying.
she know she succeeded in that mission? And my question is, like, she talks about, they built the foundation. It was built on the backs of these former black players or whatever. I think
it's ironic. I think it's ironic because the NBA is bankrolling this whole thing. So was it really built
right?
on them, or the backs of the guys who are bankrolling?
They're projected for a $40 to $50 million loss this year, the WNBA, and the NBA has like 60% majority stake in it. It's like they're being subsidized.
Right. But I mean, this year with the new deals with the media and whatnot, that'll all change.
It'll probably turn around. Yeah.
It will. It has to.
Which, if you watch the viewership numbers when Caitlin Clark and the Fever were eliminated, viewership went down. So it's like, she's a draw. Guess what? Every sport tends to have that person that comes around that is just a draw. You saw viewership numbers go through the roof when Tiger Woods was playing, right?
That's right.
When Michael Jordan played, guess what? Viewership was probably higher in his games than they were for a lot of other people. Same kind of thing with LeBron. You get these players who they just attract attention. She's one of those,
She is. You can't help that.
And one of the things I put on here, and I hate this whole like built on the backs of, because it's very myopic. Did the league get built on the backs of black women? Yes and no. Do we then decide that the white and Asian women had no role in the building of the league? What about the owners and investors who risked millions upon millions of dollars on this gamble? Was it not built on their backs too? Or is it because rich white people were among that group that we can't give credit?
Yeah,
what about the fans?
Those black women, those white people?
Yes, oppress them.
They forced those black women to build the league. That's what it was.
Exactly.
I'm catching it.
See, they sat back and didn't take any risk on it,
That's the next article for them.
Right. What about the fans who were the originals? Do they not get any credit for where the league is today? Nope. It's just the black players. Insert Colin Kaepernick slave auction comment here, right? Like, it's how quickly it becomes, it's a bunch of slaves on the auction now. That it drives me up a wall. It's like, and to change one of their heroes, Barack Obama, you didn't build that.
Slow clap.
You didn't. And that's my piece. Like, I get so tired of this whole, like, it's built on the backs of insert marginalized people here. It's like, what a myopic view, because how many other people sacrificed themselves for this idea that, well, they're just not the right skin color, so they don't get credit,
Can I just throw one last thing just to see what happens with this clip? Because I know
cap it off. Yeah.
The backs of black women weren't used for this. It was all of our masculine men playing in the NBA that got you your opportunity, you women. So eat it up, feminists.
Right. Along that line, I wrote, so stop fighting for credit for some hard-fought sacrifice. It was actually an opportunity someone else afforded you. They didn't have to give you women's basketball growing up. They didn't have to give you college basketball or a pro league. Your parents didn't have to drive you to the court or pay for shoes or get you into summer camps. Trust me, if we go this route of building on the backs of, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to get messy, and y'all are going to look like the women's soccer team that looked like a bunch of fools. This whole, it's built on our backs, so we sacrifice. You're going to look like a fool. Instead, how about, no, we get this awesome opportunity. Thank you for everybody who is involved in this.
Man, thanks for all the attention we get. Thank you, guys. Hey, Caitlin, way to go, girl. You are giving props to everybody. You are giving props to the Cheryl Swoopses and the Maya Moores. You're giving props to everybody. Thank you for that. You're a killer player in the league. No, they had to go out and demean her, right? And that shows you the pettiness. I mean, we're dealing with a bunch of grown children in a lot of ways in these circles, and I don't care if they like it or not. That's just the truth. You know what I mean? It's just grown children.
And it's, dude, go with me here. It's a selfish nature. It's a bitter, selfish nature, right? We don't get enough credit. We don't get enough pay. We don't get grown children bitter and selfish. Instead of, look, There were people who came before me. Thanks to them. Thank you to everybody else who made this possible. Thank you for the stadium workers who stay late after our games to clean up the floors. Like, thank you to the owners who put their money on the line for this idea, that thought this would pay off. You know, like, thank you everybody. Thanks mom and dad. Thank you for my teammates and past teams. You know, like, the path of gratitude is a lot more peaceful than the path of bitterness.
Well, one of my favorite team ever was the Patriots, you know what I mean? And their whole dynasty. And one of the things that Coach Belichick made almost every player do, especially the starters, I don't know about the rest, but maybe he did, he would quiz people on people's pictures in the hallways, former players. Hey, who's that guy over there? If it was the lunch lady, you better know her name, right? And he created a culture of awareness, knowing everybody's role. This whole thing creates us to be a championship team. And I think that's missing. You know what I mean? This gratitude of everybody, including the lunch lady, helps us get to what we're doing. You know what I mean? And it's just missing now. And I think that's the idea, that culture, the gratefulness, the gratitude, that every little person counts in our organization. It's not Robert Kraft, it's not Bill Belichick, it's not Tom, it's everybody. You know what I mean? So my 2 cents.
And I think to cap it off, just to finish this up, you know, you had brought up cultural Marxism, and if there's a common grain in Marxist thought, it's envy and greed. It's so-and-so doesn't have, I need, or I want. And it's so easily translatable into any area of life if you allow it to be. And so now you've got this social justice wokeism idea of one group of people has it better than we do, so therefore I want what they have, or I should have what they have. And guess what, white people? Be careful, because you're going to fall into it too, because now you're starting to see it in terms of Jews, right? Oh, the Jews this, the Jews that. And you always thought, no, that was dead and gone. Well, guess what? It's making a comeback, and it's making a comeback in conservative circles and Christian circles. Now, the whole state of Israel thing, that's a whole different conversation topic that we probably should hit, you know, and we're going to make people mad. But isn't it funny, like, I hate it when blacks tell us we've got white privilege and blah, blah, blah. And then in the next sentence, it's like, but the Jews control everything and they have Jewish privilege. It's like, here we go again, you know?
But that's what happens in tribalism, dog. That's one thing people want to understand, why we talk about what we talk about, because that's what tribalism does. It puts someone has to be the scapegoat. Someone has to be on the altar of our pride and ego. You know what I mean? Someone has to be up there so I can feel better about me. That's tribalism in a nutshell. You know, I'll accept some things, but the things that I want to have sacrificed, I'll put that on the altar for my pride to cover me up. And that's legit what tribalism has become. You know what I mean?
Bro, there is a sermon in that of pride requires somebody to be put on the altar, but it ain't you.
But maybe that's our next podcast on that Friday. So round it out, Mikey, because since I got noise here.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. To cap it off, find other sports to watch than the WNBA. You got better things to do with your time.
Drinking coffee.
Yes, better thing to do with your time.
I got these 2 lovely people next to me, and they're drinking these bomb coffees. She's got this giant iced one. Looks like she put it in a freaking 5-gallon pail. But nobody's going to say anything about that. That'll keep her awake the next 5 years. It's great, though.
Tell her I'm one in spirit with her, dude. All right. Love y'all. Go to theselfevidenttruth.com.
Yeah,
check out our resources. Check out what we got. We love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will have some sales
coming out. And guys, we finished the book. It's actually in print, and we will ship those out to you as soon as we get them. There should be 1 to 3 days that we'll have the physical copies that we can start sending to the people who order. So,
is it up on Amazon now?
I think so. Because I set up all the information the other day, so it should be good to go.
Oops, I'm checking something. I misspelled Liberty and it turned into Libertad. It hasn't quite popped up on Amazon yet, but that's okay. Anyways, yes, get the book, guys. We put a lot of work into this book. Would you just buy it? Even if you never read it, at least buy it. So we love y'all. We hope y'all have a great day. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.